India, a land of mystery and ancient traditions. The history of India can be divided into two phases, the pre-Vedic era and the Vedic era. Veda is an ancient Sanskrit word which means knowledge. India's story begins with its oral traditions and continues past its recorded events to present times. The Indus Valley Civilization formed around the Indus River and lasted from 2500 to 1500 BCE. The two famous towns that emerged from the Indus Valley Civilization were Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. The population is estimated to have been around 5 million people. These were well-organised towns, where the houses were made of bricks and the streets were paved with a drainage system. Mohenjo-Daro, the bigger of the two towns, had a public bath and assembly halls. The people developed a form of writing for communication. This script has yet to be translated to understand the world of these ancient people. The Indus Valley Civilization lasted through 1700 BC before it disintegrated and disappeared for unknown reasons. The Aryans arrived in the area around 1500 BC. Some experts still believe in the theory of an Aryan invasion, where the Aryans, a group of light-skinned people, overtook the darker-skinned natives and formed a more civilized society. This theory became highly developed in the 19th and 20th centuries, but it is losing its place steadily with new research that provides hardly any evidence to support the theory. Hinduism developed during this period with the writing of the sacred Vedas. The two major literary contributions were the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, which even today are considered sacred texts of the Hindu religion. The caste system was also set in place at this time. The 6th and 7th centuries saw the development of Buddhism in India. The Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, was born in Lumbini, Nepal, almost 2,500 years ago. The term Buddha means one who has awakened. Buddha practiced a life of a sage, never claiming to be God or worthy of worship. Nonetheless, a new religion followed his example, and Buddhism became practiced in India and ultimately all around the world. By 326 BC, Alexander the Great had destroyed the Persian Empire's foothold in the northwest part of India and moved into the territory. But Alexander's stay was only temporary. Both the Persians and Macedonians, or Greeks, withdrew from India after his death in 317 BC. The smaller kingdoms of India continued their infighting, and by 322 BC, the first great Indian empire arose in the land. Chandragupta Maurya formed the Mauryan Empire around 321 BC. At its height, the empire covered the central and northernmost parts of India and parts of Iran. Perhaps the most famous of the Mauryan rulers was Chandragupta's grandson, Ashoka, a warrior king. Ashoka the Great turned to Buddhism after the brutal war of Kalinga. He renounced all violence, encouraging others to live by the principles of Buddha. He erected tall pillars with messages meant to guide the population to live in peace and harmony with each other. The pillars are the oldest structures of the kind in India. One such sculpture, the lion capital of Ashoka, is the national emblem in India. After Ashoka's death, the Mauryan Empire steadily declined. In the 4th century AD, another Chandragupta arose and founded the Gupta Empire. Under the care of his son Samudragupta, India's literature, music, arts, science and mathematics all bloomed. The great poet Kalidas lived during this period. Unfortunately, the Gupta Empire too collapsed by the 6th century. The Huns, a warrior people, next invaded northwest India in the mid-5th century. They came from Central Asia. Although they ruled for almost 30 years, the Huns were defeated by an Indian prince named Yashodharman in 528 AD. King Harshavardhana formed the last of the great ancient Indian kingdoms. He was notable for his policies of religious tolerance. He also built and maintained good relations with China. He was defeated in battle by Chalukya, thereby ending the last of the great Indian dynasties. The medieval period in India had several smaller kingdoms. The Cholas were probably the largest and strongest of these kingdoms in South India. They traded with the Arabs and resembled a system of European feudalism. The Chola dynasty lasted from the 9th century to the 14th century. The Mughal Empire was arguably one of the most important empires in the history of India. Babur, a descendant of Genghis Khan, founded the Mughal Empire in 1504. Using tactics of warfare that he picked up from his predecessors, the Turks, Babur crushed his opposition and united India under his rule. His son, Humayun, ruled India until he was defeated by an Afghani ruler named Sher Shah in the 1530s. Humayun was sent into exile with Sher Shah ruling over northern India. After the birth of his son Akbar, Humayun relocated to Persia until he had the opportunity to regain his kingdom in 1554, which he ruled until his death in 1556. Akbar the Great became the ruler of India at just age 13. He tolerated religious freedom. He cultivated an atmosphere where both Persian and Hindu literature and art bloomed. He structured his government and appointed Hindu officers to his administration. Following Akbar's death in 1604, his son Jahangir became the ruler of India until his own death in 1627. The Mughal Empire continued to thrive under Jahangir's rule. Art, literature, and architecture flourished. When he died, his son, Shah Jahan, became the 5th ruler of the Mughal Empire in India. Shah Jahan, who ruled from 1627 to 1658, is probably most famous for the Taj Mahal, which he built for his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal. Considered one of the great wonders of the world and a symbol of undying love, construction of the Taj Mahal began in 1631 and it was completed in 1653. Shah Jahan's son, Aurangzeb, came to power in 1658 and ruled India for almost 50 years. The Mughal Empire grew vast under his rule. Unlike his ancestors, Aurangzeb's religious policies were less tolerant. This led to many skirmishes, particularly the one between Aurangzeb and Chhatrapati Shivaji, founder of the Maratha kingdom in western India. Shivaji, a Hindu, was born on February 19, 1630 in Pune, India. A mighty warrior, Shivaji was also a great administrator. He used guerrilla warfare tactics to capture extensive territory from the Mughal Empire, forming his own Maratha Empire. Shivaji promoted tolerance for all religions and made it a point to employ as many people as he could outside of his caste and religion. Aurangzeb, recognizing that Shivaji was a serious threat, invited him to Delhi and tried to offer him a position within the Mughal Empire. Shivaji refused to accept his offer. In response, he was placed under house arrest, but Shivaji managed to escape by pretending to be ill and then disguising himself as a commoner. He walked out of his prison without any detection. Shivaji died from dysentery in 1680. The Mughal Empire lost much of its glory after Aurangzeb's death in 1707. Over time, it was attacked by the Marathas, Persians, and the Afghanis until it disintegrated completely. This allowed for European powers to move in and take over the territory that was left behind. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to arrive in India in 1498 in search of spices. They settled in Goa and established a trading post. By the 17th century, their presence declined and it was replaced by the British, Dutch, and later the French. By the 18th century, the British had removed all competition, and the East India Company completely monopolised the trade scene in India. As the century progressed, the British used the differences between the various kingdoms of India to leverage their own position until they had found a strong foothold in 1757, after the Battle of Plassey. The British Raj was in complete control of India's resources of spices, silk, cotton, tea, and much more. The Indians worked almost as slaves. Mysore's superior military force, under the rule of Hyder Ali, resisted British tyranny. Unfortunately, Hyder Ali died in 1782. Even though his son Tipu Sultan carried the mantle forward, he too was killed in battle in 1799, in the last of the Anglo-Mysore Wars. By 1803, the British had taken over Delhi and overthrown the remnants of the once powerful Mughal Empire. By 1849, they were implementing their own policies, such as making English the official language of the government and abolishing the Hindu practice of sati, where a woman threw herself on her dead husband's funeral pyre. For years, Indians had served in the British military as sepoys. After years of British oppression, Indians decided to fight back. On May 10, 1857, a group of sepoys attacked the British because they had been issued a new rifle, which used cartridges that were supposedly greased with cow or pig fat. In either case, it was an affront to the Hindu and Muslim sepoys, so they retaliated against the British. The first attack happened in Meerut, and then the Mutiny of 1857 caught momentum fast. Soon, the rebels took over Delhi and demanded the restoration of the Mughal Empire. Eventually, the British were able to regain control and put an end to the mutiny in 1858. But the East India Company lost all control, and India ultimately came under the rule of Empress Queen Victoria. Following the aftermath, patriots rose and formed the Indian National Congress in 1885, and the Muslim League was later founded in 1906. The advent of a railroad system and newspapers in the 19th century also brought Indians together and raised an awareness for independence. Already by the turn of the century, the British were losing their position as a superpower. By World War I, Indians were becoming stronger in their sentiment to break free from the British. The Amritsar massacre that took place on April 13, 1919, where 379 unarmed people were killed and about 1,200 more were injured, sealed the fate of the British in India. Out of all the chaos, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi rose to become a famous figure. Gandhi was a lawyer and a leader of Indians in South Africa. He returned to India in 1915, and by 1920 he had emerged as a nationalist, launching a campaign of non-cooperation with the British. When the peaceful demonstration became violent, he was arrested and imprisoned for 2 years. In 1930, Gandhi led a salt march as an act of defiance, for which the British arrested him again. He was released in 1931. When news of World War II arrived, India found itself right in the middle of it. The Indian National Congress demanded the British quit India in 1942. In response, the British arrested and imprisoned their leaders, including Gandhi, who was later released in 1944. India became independent on August 15, 1947, with Jawaharlal Nehru serving as the first Indian Prime Minister. India's new constitution came into effect in January 1950. Unfortunately, the celebrations were followed by the tragic assassination of Gandhi on January 30th, 1948. Nehru died in 1964, and his daughter, Indira Gandhi, became the Prime Minister of India in 1966. By the 1970s, India was dealing with inflation, increased population, railroad strikes, recession, and a state of emergency. The recession continued into the 1980s. At the same time, Punjab sought independence. A group of Sikhs took over their sacred Golden Temple in Amritsar. The Indian army brought down the rebels, but destroyed part of the Golden Temple. In retaliation, 2 of Gandhi's Sikh bodyguards assassinated her on October 31, 1984. She was replaced by her son, Rajiv Gandhi, who was also assassinated on May 21, 1991. By the 1990s, the Indian economy was experiencing an upward swing. Entering the 21st century, India's economy and prosperity continued to grow, creating a rising middle class. Today, the bright future is within India's grasp, but the old struggles of illiteracy, poverty, and disease still remain. Will these challenges ever be addressed? Only India's future will tell. Thanks for watching.